on a federal officer. An arraignment is set for Monday, and a terrorism charge has not been ruled out. Alex.
Okay, Kayla, well, definitely security is where my next conversation is going, so I thank you for that. Joining me now, we have Rob D'Amico, MS Now National Security and Intelligence Analyst and former FBI Supervisor, and Ken Dilanian, MS Now Justice and Intelligence Reporter. Hey, guys, welcome. I'm glad to have you both here. Ken, what do we know about the investigation into the suspect right now?
Well, so, Alex, there are two main parts of this investigation. One, exactly what happened and how it happened, and then secondly, why did it happen? So in terms of the how it happened, it's pretty clear that this attacker carefully planned this operation. And remember, this is a well-educated suspect. He went to the California Institute of Technology, got a mechanical engineering degree, has a master's degree in computer science, and was working as a teacher. And he traveled by train, as you said, with weapons, a shotgun, a handgun, and knives, as far as we know, as far as what authorities are saying, and checked into that hotel. So he was inside whatever security perimeter there was outside of that hotel with his weapons in place at a location where the president, the vice president, and half the cabinet were set to gather. And then when he decided to mount his attack, authorities say, he made his way down to the checkpoint outside the ballroom where the magnetometers and metal detectors were and charged through that first line of defense. And we can see on the video, he made it past a number of security officers who then tried to open fire. They missed him, but he was ultimately tackled before he got to the ballroom where the president and the vice president and others were. So in that sense, the security perimeter was successful, but it's sparking a whole host of questions about what about the rest of the hotel, because there were a lot of VIPs wandering around that hotel at pre-parties outside of the security perimeter. And if this suspect had decided to attack then, they would have been essentially defenseless. In terms of the why, they're gathering more information about this suspect. You heard Donald Trump say that there are some writings and where the suspect made clear he wanted to target Trump administration officials. Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, was on NBC News this morning, and he talked about that. Take a listen.
We've already spoken with several witnesses who knew him, and we believe, I kept it a little general because we do believe it was administration officials. It does appear that he did, in fact, have set out to target folks that work in the administration, likely including the president, but I want to wait and not get ahead of us on that.
So obviously there's going to be huge questions about how this accomplished, well-educated person went down the path of radicalization, why he decided to commit what was apparently political violence. And we're suffering an epidemic of political violence in this country. So that's going to be one of the big questions in addition to the security question, Alex.
Hey, Ken, are they analyzing this incident as a security lapse or a security success?
Well, it's interesting. The Secret Service is pronouncing it a security success. You played Todd Blanche saying he thought it was a success. In the most narrow terms, they stopped the attacker. They protected the president's life. That's true. And in fairness, that was the Secret Service perimeter. But the larger question is, how do you have this event that's almost a State of the Union level event with half the cabinet, members of Congress, prominent media and business executives in this hotel that's open to the public? It was a working hotel. Guests could come and go. How do you have no security outside the hotel? People could just walk in there. That's been the way this event has been for decades, but surely this is going to cause a re-examination of those protocols, Alex.
Oh, yeah, things are going to change, that's for sure. So, Rob, let's take you to the West Coast because officials went to the suspect's apparent home in Torrance, California. We're giving you a live picture right now. What might they be looking for there?
They're looking for everything in that house that he had touched and communicated with. Big things, computers, writings, talking to neighbors, figure out where he was so that they can talk to more people. They're going to extend that circle of who he talked to. They're going to try to look for people that were on the train with him to see if he said anything on there. But the house is going to give the most, if he's got a computer there or if he had it in his hotel room. They're going to look at, the routers and everything else to get that so that the digital picture can get a lot clearer to figure out where this, again, as Ken said, this path went down somewhere where he started getting, self-radicalized. There's a triggering event that probably happened, trying to figure out that triggering event when he bought the weapons compared to that so that they can really document how this went down. It's one of those things, and I have to kind of throw this out to, I'm on the board of the National Prevention Hotline. where people can call, like the family said that they didn't know who to call. A lot of people don't want to call the police, but all these events have these same, paths that go down, and people notice it, and they point it out, but they don't know who to call. We had actually yesterday a message put on the hotline's webpage to them, another threat to President Trump and the administration. Not the same person, but we reported it to the FBI and Secret Service. There's a lot of this out here, and people just don't know where to go when people are starting to think of violent behavior.
So, Rob, let's take a look at where the shooter rushed security on the ground floor. Ken did a good job of describing it. It's right near the stairs to the lower level ballroom. That is where the president was seated. And this event was attended by high-ranking cabinet officials. They were wandering around the halls with the hotel rooms below them, above them. Attorney General Todd Blanche says the shooter was staying at the hotel, checked in fact, Friday night. Would you have expected tighter security given you have the President of the United States in attendance here?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a written article for MS Now and talking about that. Here you have a president who's already had 2 assassination attempts, lowest ratings of a second-term president in a long time, so he's not popular. And you have an event, like Ken said, almost State of the Union level, vice president, cabinet members, there, and they don't have the basic security. Basic security, the hotel's closed. Okay, it's not closed. So you think the security be even harder. Some type of physical barrier, some type of serpentine. I just went through TSA the other day, and I had to go back and forth, and there was no people in line, but I was going back and forth because they had a serpentine. You think that would be there. When the president gets into the room, that gate should have been, that entry point should have been closed permanently, to a point where you have to physically move something because no one's supposed to get in there anyhow. They told the attendees be there by 7 so that they could do that. Well, why wasn't that happening? There's so many things. Go ahead. I
want to ask you on that point right there. There was an official who was briefed on the matter, and a law enforcement source as well tells MS Now that agents were in the process of taking down the magnetometers and the metal detectors when the suspect rushed that area. So you're talking about the timing where everything should have been completely shut down. Was that what was happening as it should be? Were they saying, hey, no more entrance this way, and they were just closing up shop? Or is that normal timing in terms of this routine, or what do you think?
I don't know exactly, because I saw if they're closing up shop, taking down the magnetometers, well, where was the physical barrier that they're going to put up? That should go up first, and then you take the other things down later. So again, just having a clear path to run through it, you saw the reaction time. They could not react quick enough. I mean, they were brave in the fact that they did things after, and the fact that they're taking credit as a security success. The units I come from, like the hostage rescue team, even when missions go well, you have operators saying, hey, it went well, but we were lucky because I did this wrong, I should have done this. You have to be very secure in to improve as an individual and as a unit. You have to go back and say, hey, we did not do things right. We got lucky. The fact that they're not saying that, I think, is problematic. The Secret Service needs to use this as an awakening, saying, look, we have to change the way we're doing things. Political violence is on the rise, people taking things in their own hands. And the fact that you have a very popular president at a war with the country that has sleeper cells in here that threaten them. Why are you not having physical barriers to get into an event with all those people?
You're raising a lot of questions, and I know that you'll be pushing for the answers. So will Rob D'Amico and Ken Delaney, and 2 of our best. Thank you guys so much.